Ahoy there, fellow travelers. Welcome to E-Travels with E-Trules, a personal and literary podcast of travel adventures and misadventures from around the world. This is Eric Trules, and thanks for listening. I married for the first time at age 55 in 2003. I married an Indonesian girl from Sumatra who I met in Bali, who was 31 years younger than I was and who spoke almost no English. Go figure, huh? But in the summer of 2003, a few months after we had tied the knot in L.A., we took our first extended trip together to Machu Picchu in Peru and up the Avenidas de los Volcanos along the mountainous spine of Peru and Ecuador. For 2 months, we traveled by all-night buses with los indiginos, the local natives, dressed in colorful sarapes and gray bowler hats. I loved it. My wife hated it. And this trip was as much about our new marriage as it was about South American culture and adventure. E-Travels with E-Trules. Love and the Devil's Nose. It's another continent, another train, the train of life. Or specifically here in southern Ecuador, summer 2003, it's called El Nariz del Diablo, Nose of the Devil. It's the wife's and my first extended trip together since coming home from 8 months in Malaysia. That's right, we're married now. February 14th, 2003, Valentine's Day. Ever the hopeless romantic. We went to City Hall near the LA airport for the ceremony. Our friend Taj Mandela was our only guest, our witness, and our best man combined. Hey, I waited 54 friggin' years to do it. No frills required. So now, post-honeymoon, we've spent a month in Peru, busing through the Andes from Lima to Cusco to Machu Picchu, all the way north along the arid west coast with a little side trip to the Amazon jungle to a town called Iquitos. It's been a hell of a trip. The wife has already threatened to leave me and go back to L.A. 5 times. I don't know why. She keeps complaining about the all-night 14-hour bus trips through the twisting mountains with the local indiginos. Beautifully wrinkled women in gray bowler hats and colorfully woven sarapes. I think the trip's fantastic. She thinks it's hell. I guess the real problem is cultural. That's right, Surya grew up with the local indiginos tribe of her own in her native Sumatra. I grew up on the Long Island suburbs of New York, where the only indiginos were smart, fast-talking Jews, one smarter and faster talking than the other. I've spent my whole life escaping the conventional and boring suburbs. I like risk, adventure, traveling with the locals, staying in traditional longhouses. Surya, unsurprisingly, prefers the Marriott or maybe the Ramada. Comfort, clean sheets, good shower. You might say we're not well-suited traveling companions. Oh yeah, did I mention it was summer in the southern hemisphere? In the Andes, the weather is freezing cold. What the hell was I thinking? How could I overlook that summer above the equator is winter below the equator? We've brought summer clothes, no sweaters, no jackets, and we've been staying in budget hotels, mostly without heat. We have to keep asking to rent a calefacción, an electric heater, and half the little hotels don't have one. I've already gotten sick with the flu, but hey, I've recovered. I mean, what the hell is the wife complaining about? Anyway, now we're busing north along the La Avenida de los Volcanos, Avenue of the Volcanos between Cuenca in the south of Ecuador and Quito in the north. All along the north-south Pan-American Highway, there is a long series of snow-capped volcanos dominating the skyline for hundreds and hundreds of miles. It is magnifico. The problem is I can't figure out where to get the Riobamba Alausi Railway to find El Nariz del Diablo, the nose of the devil, the breathless railway track that the guidebook says, quote, is an architectural feat of railroad acrobatics where the train ascends a perpendicular cliff along two 180-degree switchbacks, then actually descends caboose first into the canyon, end quote. Exciting, right? Supposedly, the train stops in a little town called Alausi on Wednesday, Fridays, and Sundays. However, the exact time of the stop is actually unknown. But we do manage to get ourselves to Alausi on a Tuesday night. By bus, of course. The little village is tucked softly into the cradle of the central Andes, and it is definitely several paces slower than the rest of Ecuador. Very simple, very Catholic. You know, those Spanish conquistadors and Franciscan monks did a lot of damage to the Incan tribes like the ones here in Alausi. Rape, pillage, and then left their Jesus-worshipping Catholicism behind them. But to us gringos, it looks pure and simple. Anyway, we seem to be two of the only 4 gringos to have come to Alausi. The other 2 are Steve and Jamie from London, a marine biologist, and his ex-lawyering wife, who seem to have read the same guidebook we have. So we meet and greet each other and all check into El Hotel Americano, supposedly the best hotel in town. Unfortunately, there are no keys or locks on the doors, although the hunchback proprietress assures us, "No hay un problema, señor. Persona no steal nothing from the hotel. Nunca. Never." Seems to be the only game in town, so we take 2 rooms and we go out quickly to get a dinner of anorexic, poorly fed chicken with lumpy rice. When we come back, we discover, "No hay agua caliente 24 horas. Hot water 24 hours. But hey, what do you expect for $4 a night? In the morning, we all hustle to the train station at 7 a.m. That's when the guidebook says the train leaves. But when we get there, we find out that the train will be actually arriving from Riobamba in the north at 11 in the morning. So we buy 4 tickets and we go back to the hotel. In the next 4 hours, Surya changes her mind about the trip 4 times, once per hour. "Go by yourself." "I'm not going." "What do you mean? We came all this way. We have to go." "No, go by yourself." "Why?" A logical but useless question to ask if you know anything about marriage. So, I go back to the boleteria, the ticket office, and surprisingly, the ticket dude takes back the ticket, because now there are more than 50 people lined up at the window. He knows he won't have any trouble reselling the ticket. I trudge back to the hotel, uphill all the way. Surya's changed her mind. Time number 2. "I want to go." "What do you mean? I just sold your ticket." "I want to go." I trudge back to the boleteria and somehow convince the ticket dude to sell me another ticket. But the wife has followed me and changed her mind again. Number 3. "Go by yourself." "What are you talking about? I just bought you another ticket." "I changed my mind. Go by yourself." Ugh. This happens one more time. "Go by yourself. I want to go. Go." Okay, a woman's prerogative, right? Especially a Gemini woman. Finally, at 10:30, a train appears down the track. It's a single car, bright red, very clean looking. Looks like it came straight from the train museum. Suddenly, all 50 of us crowd around a single car, all trying to be amongst the first 20 or so who'll be lucky enough to jump on the roof for the 2-hour trip. I mean, who wants to take El Nariz del Diablo cramped up inside of an antiseptic red cable car? You can do that in San Francisco. We're all pushing and shoving to get on board when a woman in front of me with a thick French accent says, "Monsieur, non pas pour vous, c'est pour notre groupe." "What are you talking about?" I say. "I was here 3 hours before you. I paid my money and I'm getting on the roof, s'il vous plaît." Madame complains loudly and the conductor explains that, "Oui, si, indeed, this is a private car for a group of French tourists, that the Riobamba train will be coming at 11 as scheduled." We all sigh in unison, and we allow the righteous frogs to board their red museum car. 11 o'clock comes and goes. No train. The natives are getting restless. I mean, I'm getting restless. Finally, a few minutes before 12, the real Riobamba train finally arrives, absolutely crammed with grumpy rooftop riders who have already bumped along for over 4 hours from Riobamba. There is absolutely no room for any of the 50 of us here in Alausi. But hey, we paid our money and we are getting on that frigging train roof. We all push and shove and climb the old rickety ladder until, sure enough, we're all on the Riobamba Alausi Railway heading straight towards El Nariz del Diablo. It's a perfectly clear, cloudless Ecuadorian day, and we're off with about 1,000 other backpackers, tourists, and travelers from all over our lonely planet, all on top of 5 sardine-packed, old-fashioned, well-rusted train cars. We're riding the Andean Skyway south to the nose of the devil. It is spectacular. The entire train, locomotive engine, 5-pack touring cars, and caboose crawls down the mountainside very slowly until the entire train passes another parallel connected track where the caboose starts leading the train back up the mountain in the opposite direction, but still further down the mountain. That's the switchback, and this happens 3 times. The train descends engine leading, then caboose 3 times until we reach the bottom, where they let us off the roof to stretch with some strange tasting cocoa tea to prevent the altitude sickness, then load us back on, where the superhuman engineering feat is repeated, but this time up El Nariz del Diablo, until a lurch, and suddenly, you guessed it, the train stops dead for 20 minutes. All the conductor dudes and engineers climb off the train to consult. We all settle in for the long haul. The weak among us climb off the train to pee, to take a photo, to pray to whoever they believe in. It seems that the second-to-last car has fallen off the track. Not a good sign. But suddenly, as if in perfect Disney Ecuadorian party planning, there are train hawkers everywhere selling banana chips, beef jerky, bottled water, who knows? Maybe every El Nariz del Diablo train derails at the bottom. Hey, I'm sitting there back on the roof thinking to myself, hey, shit, ain't life like a great train ride? Uphill, downhill, switchbacks, on the track, off the track, lots of false starts, false stops, missed connection, changed minds, altered plans. A lot like a marriage, in fact, with twists and turns, challenges, threats, promises, tests, wrangles, eruptions, reconciliations, but always an endlessly unpredictable, turn yourself inside out, soul-searching journey. Battle, friendship, partnership, war. Like sometimes just going on the train, just getting to the altar takes all the guts you have. Of course, some people get on the marriage train blindly at a very young age and frequently end up in an interchangeable sequence of serial monogamies. But those of us who have waited, who've resisted, who've held out, hell, we're in for the full Monty, mountain-scaling, switchbacking, long-term kind of ride. Anyway, we're on this broken-down train that has derailed, much like a marriage does at times. We're trying to rescale the mountainside, much like having to rework a marriage after an awkward little tiff, or perhaps after a more painful, more volcanic eruption. Many of us are wondering if the train is ever going to get the hell back on the track, ever again. Some of us, the weak, have bailed already. They're trudging up the mountain, walking along the track, trying to get back to Alausi by foot. But most of us are still there, still on the train, still thinking, still hoping the train is going to start up again, right? Or it won't. Some of us are pissed off. What kind of fucking Ecuadorian feat of super engineering is this? Others of us are afraid. The entire fucking train is going to plummet off the side of this devil's mountain. Still others of us, myself included, are simply having a good time. It's a sunny day. We're in southern Ecuador doing El Nariz del Diablo. And this is all just part of the ride. Just all part of the ride. I mean, hey, trains, marriages are fucking difficult to manage. As in, always difficult to manage. Well, what's the alternative? Stay home? Don't get married? Get divorced when it gets too hard? Shit, like I said, it took me 54 years to finally get married. And okay, I didn't make it any easier on myself by marrying someone from another culture, someone 30 years younger than me, someone who speaks a different language than me, and is still learning mine, not to mention she's a Gemini and changes her mind every other micro minute. But hey, how's your marriage? Any easier? How was it in the beginning? How is it now? Challenging, I'll bet. Heartaches, derailings, but not without its joys. Miracles, discoveries, gratitudes. Am I right? Am I right? And then guess what? Somehow, miraculously, the train gets back on the track. We start moving up the mountain again, along 180-degree switchbacks. We even pick up the cowardly and undeserving hoofing mutineers. Because life is like that, a great perpendicular train ride. Or at least mine is. And whether due to the miracle of Ecuadorian engineering, or due to our tenacious, problematic love and commitment, so is our marriage, Surya's and mine, back on the track, huffing and puffing our way north towards Quito, and Los Angeles, and Indonesia, and towards the guaranteed, unknown future. Yep, life, love, marriage, nose of the devil, and our own frail human choices all make it that way. Love, from my nose to yours, Don Enrique of the Switchbacks. Original music composed by Amanda Yamate, sound designed by Alicia Bermudez, produced by Harry Duran at Fullcast. Please contact us with your feedback and to schedule an on-air interview. This podcast has been supported with the USC Capstone Grant. Special thanks to Phil Allen and the School of Dramatic Arts for their support.